Unelected MAGA billionaire and shadow president Elon Musk has recently suffered some back-to-back-to-back public humiliations, but the one that perhaps hit the hardest came from none other than Joe Rogan, who's otherwise been a big fan of Elon Musk. But Elon Musk's lies about DOGE and Social Security have gotten so bad that even Joe Rogan felt the need to publicly call it out. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, they say that it hurts the most when the ones you're the closest to either criticize you or call you out. And I imagine that might be how Elon Musk feels at the moment. So this clip has gone viral, and I want to play it for you. It's of Joe Rogan, conspiracy theorist, perpetually ignorant Joe Rogan, calling out Elon Musk on some of his most egregious lies. This one being about Social Security.
Now they're talking about Social Security.
Yeah.
And that people are receiving Social Security that are 150 years old. But I don't think that is the reality as it's being explained by people who understand COBOL, the language, and this computer programming language that they use is ancient, right? Which is kind of crazy that they're still using that, right?
It's the government. I mean,
right.
Yeah.
So some guy who understands it was explaining that if certain factors aren't taken into consideration or certain things aren't entered in, like date of birth or when there's certain things
or date of death, or,
right? But it doesn't even necessarily mean that all these people are receiving checks,
right? Right. They're just listed on the files,
right? And
it doesn't mean money's going out to them. And so, yeah, again, from a messaging perspective, does Elon need to screenshot that and then send it out as a tweet or whatever we call X nowadays, and then suddenly you've got a couple million people going, oh my God, we're paying dead people. Well,
right. That's the problem with being hyperbolic.
Yeah. Again, you can tell this is painful for even Rogan to do because he's been such an Elon Musk simp of late. It pains him to have to correct Elon Musk, but Rogan has at least enough integrity to say, oh my God, even this is beyond the pale. And we've done videos about this, about the lies perpetuated by Elon Musk and Donald Trump with respect to Social Security fraud. It's not that it doesn't exist, but there have been inspectors general who have audited Social Security for decades. And the most recent audit, which ended last year, found that there was an error rate in Social Security of less than 1%. That is a staggeringly efficient government program, just objectively speaking. And for the reasons that Joe Rogan lays out here pretty succinctly in terms of the COBOL language and this idea that, 300-year-old citizens are receiving benefits, it's just not true. It's just not. So I imagine that has to sting from one of the most, if not the most popular podcaster in the world who has been so right-wing coded, so favorable and charitable to absurd, indefensible degrees to Elon Musk and Donald Trump, having to say, oh my God, you're just lying about this. You're just not telling the truth, or you're misunderstanding what's going on. And that's dangerous because Elon Musk is supposedly this infallible super genius, right? So either he's just dead wrong and he's very incompetent, or he's a liar. Either way, it's bad for Elon Musk, for anyone assessing the merits of this, especially when you consider the fact that he's basically the de facto president. Unfortunately, for Elon Musk, the humiliation and the fact checks by right-wing or right-leaning sources doesn't just end at Joe Rogan. The Wall Street Journal, which is a sister publication of Fox News, they are one of the stalwart, the most reputable, the most popular conservative publications in the United States. Even they're calling out some of the bullshit from Elon Musk and DOGE. So, as the Wall Street Journal recently wrote, DOGE claims it saved billions. See where? A Wall Street Journal analysis of government data found that many claims of savings were overstated and woke cuts were only a tiny fraction of the total. Agencies have spent the most on canceled contracts in fiscal year 2024. And if you look, DEI, very small by way of percentage. The Trump administration's Department of Government Efficiency touts cuts of $55 billion in federal spending, often citing canceled DEI and climate contracts. However, a Wall Street Journal analysis of government contract data showed a much different picture. Woke cuts were a tiny fraction of the total, and many claims of savings were overstated. While DOGE hasn't offered details about all the stated savings, which, by the way, just FYI, that's also an issue because Elon assured us, oh my God, we're maximally transparent, maximally. We've got a website. We've done videos about the shitty website and the issues with that website, and yet still, we are seeing a breathtaking lack of accountability and transparency. It has posted a list of more than 1,100 canceled contracts to its website. As of Friday, it said the savings of these contracts amounted to about $7 billion. The journal analysis projects the actual savings could be closer to $2.6 billion over the next year if spending levels remained constant, and about 2% of the funds would have gone to contracts related to DEI. Ooh, ouch, yikes, what a brutal fact check. Another brutal fact check. Research-focused agencies were among the top target for cuts, including the Department of Education and Department of Health and Human Services, where DOGE terminated contracts costing the government more than $900 million last year. DOGE terminated more than 60 health and human services contracts, including a clinical evaluation of Alzheimer's and traumatic brain injury drug, and a study of smokers with chronic lung disease. DOGE described these as administrative expenses. It's kind of strange. An administration official said many contracts were canceled for waste, fraud, and abuse. They added that DOGE's estimation of its savings are conservative and that no funds for Alzheimer's were canceled. Many of the education department's canceled contracts funded research on college costs, student career paths, and early childhood development. Woke stuff. DOGE said $1.4 million contract funded mailing and clerical operations. The contract was used to mail surveys to respondents participating in studies and was nearly complete when canceled, creating no savings for terminating it. So this is the shit that we're talking about. Actually, I shouldn't even say that. This is just some of the shit that we're talking about. The incompetence of DOGE. Remember, when they effectively terminated USAID because of waste, fraud, and abuse, they didn't actually prove waste, fraud, and abuse. And I would argue they created waste, fraud, and abuse because we found out that some of the food that was supposed to be shipped to allies and to beneficiary countries overseas to help people out there was just sitting on the dock, just sitting in docks and ports, rotting. You didn't save money for that because the food was already paid for. We bought the food to ship it to people. It didn't ship. It's there rotting. That you have created waste by definition in ways that have actually materially harmed people abroad. So damn dumb. Trump administration in a nutshell. Politico also discusses this. DOGE shares its receipts, and some of them don't match. Quote, everyone is well aware they're repeating the wrong numbers, said one manager at a company on DOGE's list of cuts. Elon Musk promised to deliver a maximally transparent government efficiency program. What he's disclosed so far is a messy and inaccurate accounting of his group's early work. The first comprehensive public listing of billions of dollars in purported savings Musk's Department of Government Efficiency is making across federal government contracts is filled with errors, according to a Politico review of the published data. Again, Politico being a fairly right-coded. DOGE website reports an estimated savings of $55 billion coming from a combination of canceled and renegotiated contracts and leases, as well as fraud detection, grant cancellations, job cuts, and more. The, quote, wall of receipts posted Monday represents only a subset of canceled contracts, the page claims, that amount to approximately 20% of overall DOGE savings so far. But among the 1,100 plus contracts purportedly canceled, Politico found, again, this is the same data being examined by the Wall Street Journal, right? So again, you have an openly right-wing publication in the form of the Wall Street Journal and a right-coded publication examining the same data as well. Contracts had not been awarded. Instances where a single pot of money is listed multiple times, tripling or quadrupling the amount of savings claimed. Purchase agreements that have no record of being canceled, but were instead stripped of language related to diversity, equity, and inclusion, so by definition, not savings. Contract savings identified by DOGE that do not match with records they refer to in their federal procurement data system, and contracts where underlying document is for an entirely different contract. DOGE has already corrected its website twice. Once around the time the New York Times published an article about an $8 million contract listed as $8 billion. That one went viral. And once by removing a duplicative $655 million contract that was listed 3 separate times. DOGE has denied the $7.992 billion discrepancy specifically, saying it had used the correct $8 million figure in its behind-the-scenes calculations. Oh, okay. So behind the scenes, you're tabulating things correctly, but your public-facing transparency, you feel the need to cook the books in order to hype up what you're actually doing. Pathetic, stupid, and deserves endless criticism and mockery. Imagine how these same DOGE, I think they're called DOGE bags now, which is a pun on douchebags. Imagine how they would react if the Biden administration was caught doing something similar. Imagine the endless mockery and contempt, which means turnabout's fair play. We deserve to give it too. Like, you guys suck so bad at this that you're caught in one major error after another. Maybe you shouldn't be given this sort of latitude and discretion. Maybe you should be kept on a tight leash and only permitted to, cut contracts within like a $5 budget. Maybe that's the amount of oversight you need, given how incompetent you've demonstrated yourselves to be. Many conservatives have cheered on DOGE as it swept into federal agencies, axing contracts, and public employees started to lose their jobs en masse. Musk himself greeted an enthusiastic MAGA crowd at the Conservative Political Action Conference Thursday, brandishing a literal chainsaw. But DOGE's slash and burn approach and the Trump administration's fumbles on some federal job cuts has also started to put pressure on GOP elected officials at home. And that's where, again, we have to relentlessly keep that pressure on. Make sure, folks, again, facts don't speak for themselves, and the American people can get used to anything. So just because this is landing now, don't say, okay, well, my job is done, let's kick back. We can get used to this shit. We can get used to cruelty and gross incompetence. We have to relentlessly keep putting pressure, point out the incompetence and corruption and cruelty of Shadow President Musk and his puppet Donald Trump, and use it to extract political consequences as we head into next year's elections. Keep it up. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.